Hey guys, this is Matt Powell.
Right, that's it. I gotta sue Matt Powell. Look at him. He's stolen my entire thing. Standing in a field, talking to a camera. That crap belongs to me and no one else. And anyone who even thinks about doing it must go to jail immediately. That includes you, radical, you thieving bastard.
So evolutionists all claim...
Right into broad sweeping statements about evolutionists, like the smart boy that he is. Also, I spoke with my lawyer and apparently I don't and can't own standing in fields. Also, they said I was a dumbass for thinking that I could own something so arbitrary and commonplace. Also, they're not my lawyer and get the fuck out of my office. I thought this was America, or wherever the hell I'm supposed to be. Free country, etc., etc. And as we all know, somewhere being a free country means I can do whatever the hell I like, regardless of anyone else's rights. And nobody else has the same rights as me if it inconveniences my ability to do whatever I want. Because freedom means I am more important than you.
that mutations are the reason that you'll evolve from a frog to a prince over millions of years. And they say that...
Oh, right, that's interesting. I didn't realise that Prince, and I assume all royalty, was one of the stages of human's evolution. Must be one of the earlier ones on that evolutionary path, because have you seen the royals? No one who talks like that could possibly be particularly evolved. Explains why they need servants as well, because they don't even have basic tool skills. You know, like loads of different apes have already. Useless they are. Probably all that inbreeding.
Mutations will create new information, and that you go from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles to mankind.
What in the hecking are you talking about? I know that you're trying to be flippant and dismissive in order to belittle your opponent's arguments. Another Sursic branded thing I do that belongs to me, shut up. But that only works if your flippant, dismissive shit has, like, a kernel of truth to it. And this is just gibberish.
And, you know, I used to like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but that was fiction, folks.
Hey, don't pretend you're old enough to know what the Ninja Turtles are. We all know you're like 5 years old. Also, don't you like another work of fiction? Like, a lot. To the point where you, allegedly, live your life by its rules. I say allegedly. One of the rules is about not lying. And as we have established by now, you're not very good at that. And I do mean that both ways. He's no good at not lying, and the lies he tells are frickin' stupid. Double threat guy.
But that's what they believe. They believe that we mutated from...
Oh, you always know that you are gonna get such an accurate representation of reality when you hear the words, "That's what they believe." You know, I get that you see yourself as this troll character who's so clever throwing down spicy takes to own the atheists/scientists. But what it ends up doing is make you sound like there's something wrong with you. I mean, there is, creationist, obviously, but do you have to be so upfront about it? God.
An amoeba to a fish to frogs to all sorts of different animals. And then, before you know it, you've got humans.
Yeah! Before you know it, just a few measly, teeny, ickle-wickle, tiny billions of years. Blink and you'll miss it. Basically no time at all. Humans have been around for what? A few 100,000 years, give or take? A few 100,000 years too much, if you ask me. Really, how much longer is a few billion? Oh, sugar. That is a long-ass time. Damn.
You know, you go from Australopithecus afarensis, Lucy, all the way up to Cro-Magnon man, Peking man, and Piltdown man, and all these frauds that have been debunked already back in the 90s.
And of these so-called frauds, although some of them objectively aren't, who was it that debunked them? Was it creation scientists? No, it was regular scientists doing actual science like they always do. You know, it's baffling to me that science working properly and making sure that it's not absolutely chock full of bullshit is somehow considered a weakness. When your lot make up tons of total horseshit all the time and refuse to recognise it as such, and somehow that makes you more correct. Ignorance is strength, I suppose.
And, you know, you go and you evolve through this supposed chain of evolution, but there are no missing links. The whole chain is missing, according to Stephen Gould, who was one of the top scientists in his day.
Oh my God, why do you keep talking about that? Like, seriously, you have been told time and time and time again that your little quote mine does not mean what you say it does. Because it's a goddamned quote mine. That's what they're supposed to do. And yes, your God would damn someone for quote mining, because it's literally lying. You know, it makes me think that maybe you know he doesn't exist, and that's why you flaunt his rules constantly.
And so they've looked for missing links in the fossils. They don't exist. That's why they're called the missing links.
Missing links is a bit of a misnomer, because no matter how many stages you have that show development between stages of evolution, there will always be steps in between. I have said it before, but the fact that you can tell where something goes proves that stages either side are linked. Because duh! Especially when there are so many places you would call missing links. You are literally missing the forest for the trees. You're saying there's no forest because there isn't a tree smack dab right next to this one. Checkmate atheists, when right behind you is the whole forest. I wonder if he knows how dumb he sounds.
But back to the subject. The definition of a mutation is a copying error of previously existing information.
Oh look, an adequate definition. Now, gather round, children, as he goes to take that correct pretty much thing and uses it to make staggeringly huge mistakes. Even more egregious than coming onto the internet in the first place.
And so, it's information that gets taken from one parent and another parent. That DNA gets put together, but it corrupts.
Corrupts isn't really the right way to put it, because corrupts assumes it was supposed to be any given way in the first place. Change is a far more accurate description. But then again, that doesn't sound super bad, and we can't poison the well with it, can we? So corrupts it is. Hands are tied.
And so their hero is corruption. Their hero is gene degradation.
What? Hero? What are you talking about, you ridiculous little man? Their hero is obviously me. I mean, here I am, listening to your absolute lunacy and cutting it down into bite-sized chunks with colour commentary and terrible jokes, so they can listen to you without peeling off their own faces to use as tortillas. I'm basically Super Jesus.
So by all these errors, all these mutations, somehow we've become human. Somehow we've evolved to a point where we can live as human beings.
And that's why you're a dumbass. Oh, and calling them corruptions or errors doesn't make any sense. They are changes. Some of the changes are harmful, but some of them, and get this right, are beneficial. Shocking that change can be good, right? Although then again, it really shouldn't surprise me that someone who thinks that the Bible is literal and not like hot creamy garbage would be so fearful and resistant to change. How does that make you feel?
Folks, that is just utterly pathetic and ridiculous.
Lol, I'm right funny me.
At least 98 or even 99% of mutations are deleterious. They hurt the genome. They hurt your genetic build.
Deleterious, eh? Why, that's a very big word for a very small brain. And, right, so what? What has the... Well, I don't know if it's a fact, but let's assume it is. What about that fact would have any impact on evolution, especially considering that you just admitted that some of the mutations are beneficial? 'Cause, well, let's just say you are missing out on a really freaking important part of evolution, like the literal key to how it functions so well in nature.
And mutations are the reasons for cancer. Mutations are the reason for Down syndrome and autism. So the very thing that causes autism or Down syndrome supposedly is what makes us better. Those mutations make us better in evolution.
First off, nice job talking shit about people with autism and Down syndrome, asshole. And second off, again, changes. Changes that you yourself have a 1 to 2% chance of being what you would call positive. So, right, that thing I alluded to earlier, it's called natural selection. So, you know those positive errors, weird way to put it, right? But if those help a creature to survive, guess what? They'll pass that trait on to their offspring. Offspring that will in turn be better at surviving than their peers. On the other hand, say someone had a change that was clearly detrimental, like they didn't have legs. Well, unfortunately, they ain't surviving very long out in the wild. And you know what else they aren't doing? Having offspring. And you know what that means doesn't happen? No one inherits that deleterious trait. Gasp, gasp, gasp. It's almost like the very mechanisms for evolution that of corruptions and natural selection and inheritable traits, they all work really well together to make later generations better fit to survive. Or to coin a phrase, it's survival of the fittest. Trademark Sir Sick. What do you mean that's already a thing? Come on, let me own something. Well, I guess I'm already owning Matt. That'll have to do.
Folks, what a joke. And if you're an evolutionist, the joke is on you for believing something that ridiculous.
So funny that you missed out such an integral portion of how evolution works. It's almost like you did it on purpose, but I guess it makes sense in some way. Because he probably only understands it from a human perspective. Because the thing about humans, they don't live out in the wild anymore. And when someone is born with a slight difference that could have been seen as a bad thing if they lived in trees and needed to fight off, T-Rexes, today, those people will survive fine, because with civilization, those kinds of traits don't really matter anymore. In fact, one of your it am bad traits in autism, well, that's a condition that at a basic level changes the way a person perceives the world. And while you might look at them and think, well, they don't see things the way I do, where's your evolution now? People with autism often have unique and creative ways of looking at the world, which can actually make them a much better fit for society than someone who is also not as subject to natural selection as humans used to be. Like, say, someone without a brain. Someone like you, Matt. You thick twat.
For believing that errors make information better.
I mean, to be fair, you are doing an excellent job showing how making constant errors can make information completely incomprehensible nonsense. But let's return to my word change of, change. Are you telling me that changes cannot make information better? And yes, I know he's a Bible boy, but let's do this with a different selection force to natural selection. Instead, make it human selection. If you had infinite time, you could apply random changes to a terrible piece of writing. And if you had an infinite, person who gets to pick which versions of the writing we keep and move forward from, and throws the bad and old ones away based on those changes, well, they are going to throw a lot away. Probably like 99.9% of them at least. But if they keep picking ones that are positive changes, error corrections, changing a word for a more descriptive one, hell, maybe even additional sentences, that bit of writing could look very different and would not only have new information, it will also be better suited as a piece of writing, with the many mistakes gone, etc. And I'm sure you'll be like, well, that's not going to happen, because it's so unlikely, and any additions wouldn't even make sense. And I say, I don't think you understand the nature of infinity. Given enough time, the chances of any given possibility actually happening goes up exponentially. Why do you think I keep making these videos? One day, no matter how improbable, maybe you'll actually get it.
If I was to go to a copying machine and I took and copied a piece of paper, and I took that paper that I copied and copied that, and then copied that paper, and copied off of 100 different copies, it's only going to cause information to get lost.
That is a freaking terrible analogy. That analogy is better suited to something like you. Well, your arguments. Because it's the same argument over and over again, each time losing its luster. Its meaning and value fades as it's debunked over and over again. The paper, as the words of the argument, never changes, but one day it just looks like a big empty page. But you still wave it around like it contains any meaning whatsoever.
Nobody would ever go to a copying machine and say that the copy is better than the original. But according to evolution, the copy, that's way better than the original.
Jesus Christ, you really don't know jack shit about genetics, do you? Children are not a copy of one person. Children are not clones. They are a mix of both parents. And do you know about a real thing that happens and is kind of f***ed up but true? Eugenics. The attempt to make, better people by having folks with desirable traits coupled to pass on their genes. But, doing it over and over and over again. Although it can work the other way as well. I assume your parents were half-wits and have clearly produced a f***wit.
Folks, the joke is on them, and the joke is on any atheist YouTuber for believing something that ridiculous and teaching something that ridiculous.
Hey, I resent that implication. The implication that anyone learns anything from me. They all know not to believe anything I say. I'm stupid, I'm useless, I am unreasonably handsome, I'm a liar. I don't teach anyone anything other than humans are just the worst and say stupid shit. Like you do.
Just the fact that they would try to defend something so stupid.
Somebody call the irony police. You're going to jail, Matt. Because everything that you say that evolutionists, atheists, whatever, what they believe is stupid. But only because the things you say they believe are just completely inaccurate and show that you have no idea what you're talking about.
Just the fact that they'd try to defend surfing monkeys or surfing dinosaurs, or dinosaurs even gassing themselves to a point where they've warmed the environment.
Well, I'm not entirely sure exactly what you mean by that, but if it's anything like cows, well, they produce a measurable amount of methane that tangibly affects the environment. So there is literally a modern-day example of that happening. Just because something sounds silly to your tiny peanut brain doesn't mean it is actually silly. Assuming, of course, that you didn't completely butcher the idea, which, let's be fair, you almost certainly did.
Folks, that is just utterly pathetic.
No, what's utterly pathetic is after you have been told the correct versions of things over years and years, but yet you still walk out to your little podium or out into a field for God knows what reason, and then spout off stuff that you seem to know is gibberish, because you simply cannot stop lying. Maybe if you did stop, we wouldn't have to keep making fun of you for it.
But they want to tell you that the Bible's inferior.
Inferior to what exactly? And you know what? You're wrong. It's inferior to none. It is, without a doubt, the greatest, the mightiest, the grandest, the biggest load of horseshit ever written.
Wait, before you go, I have something super important to tell you. It's life or death. It will change everything forever. Nope, wait, it's gone. Oh well, probably wasn't important. But while I have you, don't forget to comment, subscribe and notify. And if you want more of my smexy voice, check out Mrs. Six's channel Spoonstar Stories, where I narrate and voice all the videos, and she does the work. And if you want to support the channel, check out the merch store for cool t-shirts, or check out Patreon, memberships and PayPal to support directly. Finally, follow me on the medias of social to get completely pointless guff and to keep up on the latest releases. Oh, I just remembered what I was going to tell you. Whatever you do, don't touch the